We will be rising for the Pledge of Allegiance, but however, I would like to, as far as the moment of silent meditation, we would like to observe that for Brian Staley, retired Director of Administration and Finance, and Bill Day will add a few comments on his time spent with Brian during Brian's 21 years at Chariho. So after our silent meditation, Mr. Day would like the floor. On July 15, 2016, Brian received a double lung transplant at Cleveland Clinic, and on April 21st, 2020, and 22nd, 2020, the retired school finance director became the first patient at Cleveland Clinic to receive a double organ transplant, liver and kidney. Brian passed away on May 4th. Sincere condolences to Brian's family. So at this time, would you please rise for a moment of pledge allegiance and then a moment of silence in honor of Brian. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Mr. Day, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. As the note said, Brian and I had 21 years of experience there working within the district, but Brian goes back farther than that with me. I coached him as a 10, 11-year, 12-year-old in Little League. And back then, Brian was the same type of individual that he was here at Chariho. Very quiet, very hardworking. Never wanted to be the main focus of anybody's thing there. He just worked so diligently as a little leaguer. He wasn't the best ball player, but he made himself into a good ball player by the time he finished his little league career. I would like to share one what might be considered positive motion in some people's minds. Brian bought a BMW with a sunroof in the car, and a few people here might remember this one. But he was coming back from his home one day, which was just down the road, as some of you people know, and he had the sunroof open, and a bird flew by and did what a bird did on his head and messed his hair up, which wasn't much hair to mess up. But after that, I talked to Brian and was giving him a hard time about it. And Brian being Brian said, well, he said, it could be worse. I could be living in Narragansett and it could have been a seagull. And that's the kind of person that I knew as a little leaguer and as a very hard worker here at this district. So I'm going to miss him.
Sweet. Thank you, Mr. Day. Okay.
I recommend the minutes relating to the privacy of students and their records. Approval of home instruction requests remain sealed.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. Luzon and a second by Mr. Callahan to that the minutes relating to the privacy of students and their records remain sealed. Any discussion? No. Those in favor? And that's unanimous. Okay, thank you.
I recommend that minutes pertaining to collective bargaining NEA ESP negotiation update remain sealed until such time as an agreement has been reached.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion by Ms. LaGoria, a second by Mr. Callahan to recommend a recommendation that minutes pertaining to collective bargaining NEA ESP negotiation update remain sealed until such time an agreement has been reached. Those in favor? Any opposition, recusals, abstentions?
Recusal.
Recusal, one. Thank you, sir. Okay, Ms. Giusti, disclosure of executive session votes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The vote for executive session minutes of April 12th, 2022, superintendent's evaluation, approved by Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Giusti, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, Reynolds, and Spears. Abstaining was McAllister. Executive session minutes of April 12th, 2022, home instruction requests, approved by Abbott, Callahan, Chambers, Day, Giusti, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, Reynolds, and Spears. McAllister abstained. Executive session minutes, April 12th, 2022, Zell versus Charahoe, approved by Abbott, Callahan, Chambers Day, Juicy, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, and Spears. McAllister abstained and Reynolds recused. Executive session minutes, April 12th, 2022, Town of Barrington versus Barrington School Committee, approved by Abbott, Callahan, Chambers Day, Juicy, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, Reynolds, and Spears. McAllister abstained. Executive session minutes of April 12th, 2022, RGB update, approved by Abbott, Callahan, Chambers Day, Juicy, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, Reynolds, and Spears. McAllister abstained. Home instruction request tonight, all approving. Abbott, Callahan, Chambers Day, Juicy, Liguori, Luzon, Lyle, McAllister, Reynolds, and Spears. And finally, going back into executive session, Abbott, Callahan, Chambers Day, Juicy, Liguori, Lyle, McAllister, Reynolds, and Spears. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Juicy. Ms. Recognition?
Please join me in congratulating and thanking the following students. 2022 FBLA State Competition winners, Caitlin Rojic, first place Business Communication and Digital Video Production, third place Advertising. Sarah Berry, first place Digital Video Production. Tatiana So, first place Digital Video Production. Caitlin Burns, first place Graphic Design, fifth place Journalism. Reagan Tremblay, first place Job Interview, fourth place Organizational Leadership. Cooper Beck, second place Economics and Sports and Entertainment Management, fourth place Public Speaking. Elena DeAngelis, second place Healthcare Administration, third place Introduction to Business Presentation and Introduction to Financial Math. Charahoe had the second place Local Chapter Newsletter, third place Local Chapter Scrapbook. Andrew Pat, second place Sports and Entertainment Management, fifth place Business Law. Beatrice Carol Cuevas, third place Insurance and Risk Management. Macy McLeod, third place Introduction to Business Presentation and Introduction to FBLA, fourth place Accounting 1. And a special thanks to FBLA advisor Susie Scanapieko. We would also like to recognize Judy and Kimone DeFalis, owners of Town Pizzas 2, for their generosity during the high school student vocational community trip organized by high school intern Julia Potts for the staff and students in Cheryl Lightfritz's, Brittany Ruggieri's, and Keith Cronin's class. Chef Mike demonstrated the art of pizza making, and students were allowed to create and eat their own pizzas. Town Pizza server Crystal was amazing with all the students, and Town Pizza provided all of this at no cost to the district. I'd also like to recognize the 74th Rhode Island FFA State Convention winners, Ariana Colette, second place Extemporaneous Public Speaking, Amber Daniels, first place Employment Skills, second place Agriculture Skills, Demonstration and Illustrated Talk, Chelsea Flynn, first place Prepared Public Speaking, eligible for the national competition, Lola Hernandez, third place Creed Speaking, third place Agricultural Skills and Demonstration Illustrated Talk, Charlotte Kona, first place Agricultural Skills and Demonstration Illustrated Talk.
Awesome.
And finally, I'd like to recognize our CALA students and staff who are recognized by the state for increasing student proficiency on the 2021 RICAS assessment despite the challenges of the pandemic. Congratulations.
This is public forum time. Those of you who'd like to speak, please come to the mic, introduce yourself and which town you're from, please. And we may have a number of speakers today, given our audience. So try to limit to 2 minutes to start. If we have more time at the end, we can also, have other people come up and speak. So I guess you're ready to go. Please approach the mic.
Hello there. I want to start by saying I am a mother of 4, that all the kids go to this district. I'm a taxpayer, the whole thing. But
Yeah.
we have some things to say.
Could you?
I need your name.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
I'm
the
sorry.
record. That's okay.
It's my first time doing this.
Well, I know, I understand. So,
Ashley Marsh.
okay, Ashley, thank you. Where are you from, Miss
Sorry, what
Marsh?
town?
I'm a resident of Hopkinton.
Thank you very much.
So I'm a preschool teacher assistant at Hope Valley. And I'll start off with saying I love my job. I do my job first for the love. I've had the pleasure of being some of your children's teachers, some out here and in here. But as much as I wish my car could run on love and not gas, and my groceries could be bought with love, this is not the case. On paper, I'm worth a lot. I am CPI certified, which I don't know if all of you know, but that's crisis prevention intervention. Not all of us are, but some of us are. I'm first aid certified, CPR certified, hours and hours of training and PDs on social and emotional behavior management, trauma, anything you can imagine. Most of us are. And I truly sometimes feel like I don't get paid what I'm worth. My daughter's boyfriend works at Walmart and makes what I make, stocking shelves. And we're responsible to keep children alive, especially me, because I teach 3 to 5-year-olds. So my job involves a lot of safety management. Because of the world we live in and the many factors, including the pandemic, we are in a complete social and emotional crisis across every age gap. So most of us are dealing with behaviors we've never seen before. Many of us are trained to de-escalate a child in crisis. Some of us are not and have been thrown into situations that are above our rank. Yet we've all stepped up to the plate and we've all shown up, especially during these last 2 trying years. I know all the people in this room wearing red. They all do this job for the love of the children like me. I know that because they've all done this job without respect and without a contract for many, many years. All we're just asking is for attention and a little respect that we're giving to all of you. We're not coming to you from a negative place. We're coming to you because we're all sad and we feel undervalued. And that's all I really have to say, is that we just require a little bit of attention in this matter. I don't think anybody would want to do a job where they don't have a contract and feel like they're walking through limbo. And we were told for many months that it was because of the pandemic, and we're all patient with that. And then we were thrown a bone and gave a 35-cent raise over 3 years, and we were patient through that. And now we're just asking for a tried and true contract that, you know, makes us feel valued. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Helen Sheehan, and I'm from Richmond. And I appreciate all of you using your microphones because I don't like to miss anything that you're saying. So I'd like to start by saying that I am in full support of the teachers. They work very hard. We have very good teachers in Charahoe. I also appreciate all the members of the school committee because it's not an easy job to do. So I believe you all have commitment. As a taxpayer, I do have some concerns and some thoughts. One of the thoughts is that when businesses try to continue to have the services, they look at where are the efficiencies that they can make. One of the efficiencies that they do is, unfortunately, is they look at middle management. So wherever you have a vice something, not the teachers, but what are the vice people, assistants or whatever, are some ways that maybe things can be cut. Or maybe some things can be contracted out where you'd only pay a little bit, like less money than what you pay to have a regular employee. My other concern is that 2 of the positions that you have in the regular
Ms.
budget.
Sheehan, I need to, this is, public forum is for items not on the agenda. We will be discussing the
All right, we'll
budget.
come back to that.
We'll come back to it. So
Okay.
you'll have your
Yeah,
time, I
no problem.
promise. Thank you very much. I appreciate that because we do have, thank you. Hello.
Hi, good evening, school committee members. My name is Doreen Riley. I live in Westerly and have worked for the district for the last 24 years. The reason we are here is because we have been without a contract for some time now. We are showing our frustration and to be heard. We have been silent long enough. The lack of progress is very disheartening. We want to go to the table and stop with the funny business. I'm okay not getting respect from children who are in the learning stages, but not okay with the lack of respect from the adults on this committee. I challenge any one of you to please come follow me for a full day to see what we do. We work hard, and we would appreciate the committee to sit down with us and talk. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and I think you know who I am by now, but if you don't, I'm Tom Perney, and I'm a proud taxpayer, proud graduate, father in the district here, and appreciative of what you folks do here on a daily basis. It's the most thankless work that really anybody can do, and I feel like we're at that point here now amongst our members. So clearly there's a good showing here and a large show of support amongst our members. They're tired of being not heard. I've done my work long enough, and this is going to continue as long as it needs to until we're at the table and we start feeling valued. It will continue weekly at school or monthly at school committee meetings, budget meetings, things like that. Our voices will be heard and continue to be heard, okay? All we want is a seat at the table and some respect. I anticipate and hope that will happen very soon. Thank you.
Does anyone else like to come and speak during public forum? No? Okay. I guess I'll close public forum and we'll move on to policy. Thank you all for speaking.
Public forum policy revision. The item was requested by Bill Day, as this policy was in conflict with the committee's rules of conduct pertaining to the amount of time provided for speakers during public forum. I recommend approval of the revision to this policy, which will avoid future conflicts should there be a change to the rules of conduct.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion to approve the public forum policy as amended, and a second by Ms. Giusti. I now open this up to discussion. Mr. Day, you have the floor.
I fail to see where this is going to solve any problems and do anything, because essentially what you've done is taken away the 5 minutes in our policy and stated that the chair will, depending on the number of people present. So we don't know whether 60 people here today wanted to get up and speak, and you were going to limit them to a minute or two, or whether 5 people were going to get up and speak. So our rules of conduct states that we have a sign-in sheet and people get called on, and we have a half an hour limit. This is not addressing what I think that the citizens here would like to know, that when they walk in here, there's going to be a sign-in sheet out there, and they're going to sign up, and they're going to be called in that order that they sign up. And if it's going to exceed a half an hour, which our rules of conduct state, then we're going to limit them to a time. But if we've only got 2 or 3 people that want to talk, and as long as they're adhering to our policies by not being accurate on what they say, and they're not being disrespectful, then we can let them go on and make a good argument for what their argument might be. So, but I don't see where this thing solves anything, because it's too open-ended, and it's going to be too confusing for people out here to know how we're going to go. If we're going to do something like this, we need to institute a sign-in sheet out there when they walk in the door, and know how many people are going to speak, so that now you know how much time you can allow each person. It's right in our rules of conduct. I don't understand why we decide to enforce some things around here and some things, and other places nobody understood in the rules of conduct how we could conduct a meeting. I'm very disappointed in this policy, and I would urge the members here to put it back to somebody and straighten it out. Thank you.
Well, first off, Mr. Day, we are going to discuss it tonight. That's why it's on the table. So we can do whatever we want. So do you want to make some suggestion how it wants to be written at this point?
I have no, I got one voice around here, and usually,
Well, no,
and
usually-
lately nobody's been listening to this voice.
Well, I'm
So
listening to you now, so
this
now you
group-
have a response,
whatever
now
this
you have
group's want,
time.
I will try to live by it, and if I don't believe in it, I will
Okay.
voice my opinion. So
Can-
it's up to the committee on what they want to do.
Okay, so one of the things that you had suggested was that we have a sign-in sheet. I kind of agree with you on that. I like
It's
that
not a
idea.
suggestion, it's in our rules of conduct
No, I
now.
understand that, but we're updating the policy. So if you think that we want to put it into the policy, I think, it's a good idea. I don't know how the other members feel, but I think that suggestion was a good suggestion.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Don't we have a motion on the floor?
Yes, we do. We're
So are we gonna
discussing.
amend the motion?
No, wait, it's open for discussion. Yeah,
Oh,
So-
I thought it was
right,
accepting
and
this.
we okay on this?
And we do have a sign-in sheet, it's just never utilized, but we do have one.
But it's
already.
not in this,
It doesn't need to be, your rules of conduct state you have a sign-in sheet. Your rules of conduct also state 2 to 3 minutes.
Right.
So if you follow your rules of conduct, you do have a time limit. You can enforce the sign-in sheet, which we have had. We just haven't had people signing in, but we do have a sign-in sheet.
Okay. Sir,
Here's one already prepared.
So since I think that this is a bit, amorphous here, why don't we send this back with the instructions that this public forum policy is redrafted so that it
Aligns.
aligns with our code of conduct, and then we bring it back to the committee for discussion at that time.
Yeah.
So I withdraw my motion,
okay.
and you withdraw?
Catherine seconded. Yeah.
All right, so Chair, I make a motion to send this back for revision.
Okay.
Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan and a second by Mr. Luzon to send it back to table and send it back for revision.
Correct.
Any discussion on that matter?
Catherine, you withdrew your second?
Yes.
Yep.
Did she?
Thank you.
I would just as soon discuss it right now while it's on the agenda, but that's fine. Yep, I withdraw my second. We'll just do it another time.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Team
C.
player.
Okay, so we've made a motion and a second. Any discussion on that matter? I'll take it to vote. Those in favor to send it back? Okay, that looks like that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to business.
The next item is field trip requests. I recommend approval of the following contingent upon compliance with policy. Request of Skill USA Advisor Lieutenant Robert Wild for 11 students and 3 chaperones to travel to the Skills USA National Championship in Atlanta, Georgia from June 19th, 2022 through June 25th, 2022. Do you want to take it one at a time?
So
Yes.
moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the request of the Skills USA, the first request, to travel to the Skills USA National Championship in Atlanta, Georgia from June 19th to June 25th, 2022. Any discussion on that matter? Yes, sir.
Not really a discussion. I'm very much in favor of the trip. My daughter went to Kansas City years ago with a nursing program, but the question I do have is, historically, they have had a fundraising supper, and I'm just curious as to anybody in the administration can make me understand why this hasn't been advertised as much as it has been in past years. In past years, I mean, you had hundreds of people show up for this supper, and I don't know how many people are planning on showing up, but there's been no publicity whatsoever, and I believe that supper is the 20th or something.
It's on a Friday. I want
Yeah.
to say it's not this Friday, next Friday.
Yeah, well, I say it seems like it's a big secret as to they have a major fundraiser to send these 11 students to Atlanta. It's not cheap to go there, but that's just my thought on it. I'm very supportive of the trip, and And I think it's great that we have that many students. I'm just concerned that we're not more diligent in trying to raise funds. I don't know who that falls to, but that's my concern.
So noted.
I think, to your point, Mr. Day, we've had some reminders regarding the district calendar and making sure that we update that. I think with COVID, there's a lot of events that weren't occurring, so everyone's getting back on track. But to your point, I know that the goal is to continue to reach out and publicize the events.
So
It was short notice, correct?
I don't mean to monopolize this, but I guess what I'm trying to get, we do have a lot of people that watch this, that there is a fundraiser coming up a week from this Friday.
There is. There's 3
So people
seatings.
in the community may want to try to avail themselves to showing up at this thing if they possibly can. That's
Correct. It's
what I'm
saved.
getting at.
It's on the high school blog, the CTC blog, and it was
Well,
shared.
there's a lot of people that don't have kids in this district that still support this district.
Yep, we will talk to Director Auth to make sure that we continue to publicize so that it gets out to more than just our family members.
Yes, Mr.
So can you expand on that right now and do the advertisement that Bill's looking for?
It's in the reports. I can't do it now because it's not in the business item. It's the field trip specifically, so I want to make sure.
And she does have it.
Fundraising for that field trip.
For the
I think we
right,
can really
it's
stretch
dirt-
that.
We have it noted for the report.
We do have it noted.
Okay.
So there's been a motion and a second to approve this field trip. Any more discussion? Those in favor of the field trip? Thank you. Those opposed? No recusals and no abstentions. Unanimous. Thank you very much.
So the next is the request of the FBLA advisor, Susie Scannapieco, for 10 students and 2 chaperones to travel to the FBLA National Competition in Chicago, Illinois, from June 28th, and that should say till July 3rd, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan and a second by Ms. Luzon to approve the FBLA trip to the national competition in Chicago, Illinois, from June 28th to July 3rd, 2022. Discussion on that? Yes, sir.
Third or
Oh, July.
second?
July 3rd.
She just changed it to the 3rd.
It should say the 3rd.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any discussion on that matter? Those in favor? Any opposition, recusals, or abstentions? Nope, that was unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're on to the technology curriculum.
Should we get the next item on the agenda?
Is Susie here?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Is the technology education curriculum K-8 revision. Dr. Camilla and Susie Scannapieco will review the living revisions, and we have Ms. Scannapieco up at the podium. And I will recommend approval of the revised technology education curriculum K-8.
So
after
moved.
presentation.
Second.
There's been a motion by Ms. Luzon, a second by Mr. Callahan to approve the technology education curriculum K-8 revision. Thank you, Susie. You got the floor.
Hi, everyone. As you might or might not know, my name is Susie Scannapieco. I'm the STEM specialist for 5 through 12. And today we are presenting to you the kindergarten through 8th grade technology curriculum for revision that we've revised. I would always like to thank the team members who did the work behind the scenes that are not here tonight. So we had 4 elementary school writers, 2 middle school writers, and then the support and leadership of Dr. Kamala, Brian Lucas, and Jeff Scannapieco as well. So I want to bring some attention to the new standards. So that is in what we call the front pages of our curriculum, the pages that you have all seen in all the other curriculum documents. But I specifically wanted to bring our attention to these pages that explain the guiding principles of the new standards. So the new standards are why the curriculum was written from scratch, where we usually do the crossouts and the highlights. This one was started from scratch because Rhode Island created their new standards in 2018. Actually, Mrs. Daly was on that writing committee. She was on the committee to have those standards written. So these are really what our bases are from kindergarten on. Broaden participation and equity. I think that's really important to pay attention to because we started this work way back 6 years ago when we made sure that kindergarten kids were getting access to some of even just the vocabulary around computer science, things like loops and iterations. They hear those words often enough, it becomes part of their vocabulary. And that's where we built the equity. If every student in our district is getting the same experience, by the time they get to 9th grade and they get to choose whether that's an experience they want to continue in an elective or not. But up till 8th grade, it is equitable. Stimulating learning and curiosity, specifically there, of course, computer science is something that is geared to some students, but others are not. So a lot of the work that we do is gamified or created in an atmosphere that the students are really engaged in, and then we really try to keep to those programs that keep that engagement high. But at the same time, we also teach that computer science is built into every industry nowadays, so we try to take it from the angle of the sport they play or the work that they do in their day-to-day life and how that computer science will be built into that. Building connections across disciplines. I think we have a little more work to do with that at the high school level specifically, but even at the elementary and middle school, because eventually I do think we're going to see that computer science gets built into our math or built into our sciences, especially with big data sets and things that use big Excel spreadsheets and all the formulas that go behind that. I think that's still work to come, but we're going to start building that. It is part of our standards. It is part of our curriculum, but I think we'll see the integration a little bit better throughout the next couple of years. Encourage workforce economic development. Basically, what we want to say here is this is the next reading, writing, and computer science. We want to make sure that they have the base of this because they really can't get any where in the next few years without at least having some base knowledge of this in the workforce. So even if they don't want to become a computer programmer, they should understand the language behind computer programming so they could speak to their engineers, speak to the people that are doing this work. And they are the high-paying jobs, probably zero unemployment in that sector in a lot of the fields, especially cybersecurity. And then supporting teachers, that's a really big piece of this too, because a lot of the teachers that are teaching this are not by far computer science teachers. So having the support in a school district that says, we understand that you're a math teacher convert, or you might be an elementary school teacher being asked to learn this new curriculum from scratch with very little to no experience. We want to make sure we get that support for those teachers. And then the last is informing with current research. I really wanted to speak to this one because I don't think it made a lot of sense if you read it from, not having known the background on that. So it says the standard will be based on current professional research and practice in computer science, education, and pedagogy. Specifically, that pedagogy part I wanted to speak to. We all think of computer programmers, and back in the day, it felt like it was a profession where you sat in a cubicle and you coded all day. And one of the things they noticed is that to get more people in the field, they wanted it to be a team aspect type of job where collaboration was a big part of it. And so even in our programming, they call it paired programming. Kids are sitting side by side learning how to program, where one is the keyboard person who writes the code and the other is the person speaking it out and kind of giving them the coaching that is involved in doing that coding. That is the pedagogy part of how we're teaching it in the classroom, because that is how it's expected in the workforce. So those are the parts when it says inform with current research, that we're seeing more people go into those professions because we're changing the mold of what it used to be a computer science programmer. So I felt like that was like a really important part to go through, because the standards are things that I think we were ahead of them, honestly. I think we were already ahead of them. I brought you back to the memories of 2017. We had this written out. If you could see, it was done year over year. We had a plan. We stuck to the plan. The plan has been implemented. We have now a K through 8 curriculum that pretty much is being done with integrity, I would say. At the we had many different groups that came together to bring this work, script teams, people who volunteered their time to get work done, and we kept to the program. We had implementation plans and we stuck to them. Some long-term plans, like I explained before, getting that integrated into a biology class, that's still to come. That, we even think it could go into history classes for data, for example, and understanding a graph and understanding, all the different stats that are thrown out there and understanding where those stats come from. So all of that is part of the work that I still think we need to get there. We're not there yet, but soon. So these were the new standards. They are grade span specific, which is different than, for example, the math standards. You'll see that they go K to 2, 3 to 5, and then 6 to 8. That's how we wrote our curriculum documents to match, because we felt that if that's how the standard is written, that means they're giving the kids those 3 years to learn that content. But at the same time, we wanted to see the vertical articulation. What does it look like year over year? What pieces are repeated? What parts are added? And there will be repetition. A kindergarten teacher is not getting a lot of time to do this because it's the library teacher that is implementing this curriculum. They're getting very little time. But again, it's that repetitive nature of the vocabulary. Oh, we're doing a loop. They could be doing a loop at a little dance that they're doing. It does not have to be on the computer. We do a lot of unplugged activities. They call them unplugged, meaning away from their computer. But it's the words, that word loop. If they hear that word loop for 3 years, by the time they get to 4th grade, they'll understand what a loop means. What else do we have? So that's how those 3 curricula were written. We made sure to show which one was the primary grade, that they were going to focus on it. And then the content to be learned was specifically thrown in there. Bugging and debugging, those are actual words in the computer science world. So if you guys have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer. I just kind of felt like those beginning pages were a little bit more the explanation of the work that was done here and not those details in the curriculum themselves.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Day.
This is 60 pages of basically redacted information here, right?
Yes, because we
So
couldn't use the old.
you condense it down to 10 pages or less?
Well, it's actually going to, whenever we need to do this, we do that page, the crossing out part for school committee only, to show what has been taken out and what will be added in. So the yellow is the new stuff. The crossouts will never be there. Mrs. Perney does a nice job of cleaning these documents up before they go to the public. The old standards no longer exist. We don't use them as part of our curriculum, so that's why you see all that cross out. It will be condensed, and there will also be, just like we did last time, these will be clickable, and then you can go back up to the table of contents from each page, like we did with the other curricula.
Well, I don't want to sound flippant, but we're trying to save money in the district, and this give me 60 pages of information that is not useful to anybody, and I don't know how the rest of the committee members felt, and I'm sure Donna's time could have been used in a different way than putting something like this together and giving it us, because this is useless.
I agree with the printout part, but I don't know how many printouts are being done.
Right, okay.
Because that was not created. That was deleted from the old papers. I never touched that. I literally just took it and crossed it out. That took me 3 minutes of my time to make sure what parts had to be crossed out. The printing, I have never printed this document ever once, and I plan on never printing it. So if they are being printed, it is, I think, per request, I believe, but I'm not sure about that.
Well, I think Dr. Miller wanted to
I just want to
comment.
say, I think our process is to show what's been redacted, to your point, before we do any kind of final revisions.
Right, and there are school members that only receive it digitally and others who request paper packets.
I'm sorry, Mr. Luzon, you
I
have.
just want to remind people, this took a financial investment years ago,
Mhm.
and it continues to do so today.
Yes,
Just wanted to state that. Thank you.
yes.
The curricula we use right now, K to 8, is free, however. Code.org, the curricula we use in the day-to-day currently, the resource, I shouldn't say, this is our curricula. The resource we use to follow the curriculum is free. At the high school, we have some parts that are paid, but not at the K to 8 level.
That thing costs money.
The computer itself. Well, as I remember back in the day, I will bring up Mr. Ritchie for a moment. He said, make sure this is not the glorified pencil. To me, computer science is the opposite of the glorified pencil. We get to like rule the world with computer science if we know how to make the objects turn into smart things. So I think that very much is what he wanted us all to use these very expensive machines for, or to teach the kids to use them for, I should say.
Mr. Abbott, you had your hand raised, sir?
I heard of a new program being developed that basically you could verbally ask a computer or system to make a program to solve a particular problem without getting into computer languages and such. Are you aware of that?
I don't know that one specifically, but I can tell you that, for example, at the younger levels, they are doing what they call drag and drop programming, which means they are not typing lines and lines of code. They are learning the main ideas behind code, which is what parts need to be repetitive, which parts need to be distinctive, which parts need to be very specific in their so that it's not ineffective. So, for example, if I needed to get from here to the end there, I would not go this way. There are certain parts that we teach the kids to become efficient thinkers and how to get to an end in the best way possible. That's where they're learning the computer science. Actually, a lot of times it is not including typing code at all for a very, very long time. So it is the problem solving part of it that is completely the focus, with the understanding of iterations and loops and if then statements and conditionals, which are the main idea. And I can tell you that I studied that 20 years ago and none of that has changed, because that will never probably change if we're trying to solve problems.
As I understand it, you could ask a computer to develop a bus route with available resources to get from Charahoe to Providence.
Correct. And somebody built that software, and that's what we're teaching this to do, so that they build that software. That's exactly what we're hoping for. Not to be the user of that software, but to be the builder of that software.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you, Susie. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, sir, there's been yeah, I know. But did you want to say something before? Okay. So there's been a motion and a second to approve this technology curriculum. I believe the discussion is over. So those in favor of the curriculum? Thank you. Any opposition, recusals, or abstentions? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Susie.
The next item is the resolution in support of full funding of categorical transportation aid as outlined in Rhode Island General Law 16-7.2-6. I recommend approval of the resolution in support of full funding of categorical transportation aid as outlined in the law just stated.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a
With
motion.
emphasis.
With emphasis. There's been a motion by Mr. Luzon and a second by Mr. Callahan to approve the resolution in support of full funding of categorical transportation aid as outlined in Rhode Island General Law 16-7, I guess, period 2 dots, that's a dot 2/6. Okay. I'm opening that to discussion. Anybody have any comments on that? I think we're all in agreement that we do support that. Mr. Dave, did you have your hand raised, sir? Oh, I thought you did. Okay. If there's no discussion, I'll take that to a vote. Those in favor of this resolution, wholeheartedly with emphasis, is Mr. Luzon?
Yes,
Thank
definitely.
you.
Yes, emphasis.
That's
Two hands.
unanimous? Yeah,
Two
two
hands.
hands. And that was unanimous. Thank you, sir.
The next item is school improvement team membership. I have reviewed the list and have found that each school's membership adheres to the policy. I recommend approval of the school improvement team membership for the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan, a second by Ms. Juicy to approve the school improvement team membership. I'll open this up to questions, comments, or any. And we have our chart here, so you can see that. Actually, I thought this was done well. I thought that, there's from where we started, there's a lot of people participating, so that's awesome. A lot of parents too. That's even better. Okay, so I guess I'll take that to a vote. Those in favor to improve the team memberships? Okay. And those opposed? Oh, abstentions?
I'm recusing.
You're
since I'm on
recusing?
one of them.
You're on one? There's a one recusal?
I'm
Recuse or
abstaining.
abstain?
Abstain,
Recuse
sorry.
or
Two, okay,
abstain?
two abstains. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Those two abstentions. Thank you very much. And while we're on the survey.
The next item is the Rhode Island Student Survey. I recommend that you authorize the administration of the Rhode Island Student Survey to students in grades 8 and 10, which is required for the contract with Rhode Island Student Assistance Services as an opt-in survey.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. Luzon, I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, there's been a motion by Mr. Luzon, a second by Dr. Callahan to authorize the administration of the Rhode Island Student Survey to students in grades 8 and 10, which required per the contract with Rhode Island Student Services, Assistance Services. I'm going to open for that discussion. Yes, Ms. Juicy.
I had a question about, so you just said it's an opt-in. So it's going to be given or offered to grades 8 and 10 only, correct? I understand the purpose. I think it's important data to gather. I can see that there might be some parents who are leery of this questionnaire, and I want to respect that. So can you talk to me about the opt-in process, please?
So the URI team creates a Google form, and as opposed to an opt-out where you would send us if you didn't want your child to take a survey, they would only take it if you filled out the form.
Okay.
So you'd have to physically submit the form in order for your child to take the survey.
Give
It may
permission.
limit participation, but we felt it was the best way to ensure that parents understood what they were signing when they had a question.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Chambers and then
Have
Mr.
we
Day.
done this in the past, opted in?
No,
No, I
no.
was gonna say, because we had a really good showing on the result, on the one that we.
It's been the opt-out. It has always been approved by the committee. Comes to the table, but there's definitely questions that many parents feel heightened about. And we feel it made sure that we ensured that they understood that we were getting their participation.
And to follow up with that, I think that's a good idea, so that it's completely transparent. But we probably will have less kids filling in this survey, I would think.
That's one
And
of
that's
the,
too bad, because I think that it's very important data to gather.
the committee can move to an opt-out, just to your point, it was about
Yeah,
transparency to ensure that everyone was very clear about what the ask was.
Mr. Day, then Mr. Luzon. Mr. Day?
Before I make a decision, what is this survey going to be used for? That, I mean, this is, I'm a little confused. I look at the paperwork here, and it says between January and May of 2020 on the first page, and then on the second page, it said between February and June 2020. So I'm a little confused as to whoever printed this piece of paper didn't know when this survey was even going to be taken.
Yeah, there was some clarification around the dates, but if I'm going to have you, thank you for coming.
Hi,
If you could just
good evening,
introduce
everyone. My name is Heidi Driscoll. I'm the director of the South County Regional Prevention. So we are the ones administering the survey. It is through Rhode Island Behavioral Health, Developmental Disabilities and Hospitals, also with Rhode and with the Department of Health. So the three collective agencies are working together to get this data. And I so agree with you how important this information is for our youth on substance use and their mental health, especially after coming out of COVID.
So Mr. Day had a question about the dates.
Well, again, this is the survey. I've read it twice, and I can understand what Catherine, I think it was Catherine, said. There's some questions in here that I don't have a child in. If I'd be uncomfortable and having them ask me whether I'm heterosexual or gay or bisexual or anything. I don't think this is anybody's business to be asking 8th graders or 10th graders. These are questions that you don't even give them an opportunity to opt out. It says not sure. These things are too invasive, in my opinion.
And I thank you for your opinion. And actually, when we first started doing the survey in 2016, we actually did not have those questions. And we had many youth come to the table through focus groups and tell us that they wanted these questions on there. And these are also per CDC, how they are written. just wanted to share with you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Day?
I'm getting nowhere, thanks.
Dr. Callahan, then Ms. Chambers. Dr. Callahan?
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you for coming tonight. I guess my question is, I'm looking at the data or the analytics that were applied to the survey respondents. And is this the sum total of it? Or is there a larger data set that actually uses the demographics information? Meaning,
Explain, I'm sorry.
so you have in here where you have past 30-day use of substance and it breaks down the substance, right?
Mhm.
You collect an awful lot of demographics information at the beginning of the survey.
Yes.
You have age and grade and gender identity, sexual orientation. You also have ethnicity.
Mhm.
None of that is incorporated into any of these responses. And I'm just
Correct.
curious
So
why.
for anonymity purposes, correct, we do not. But if there was a question or for specific grant writing purposes, we might look at a particular LGBTQ youth using tobacco products. That's actually a grant that we just received through the Department of Health because we were able to get some of these because there's a tremendous health disparity in that age grouping. But if we were to present data, we would never come in and say 10th graders who are, et cetera. We wouldn't break it down that far for you. So it would always be.
I guess
and
a follow-up question
Yeah,
is
sure.
if we have, because this gets into mental health
Mhm.
and reporting of children who are thinking of self-harm or children who are describing bullying. And I get that there's this statistical number assigned to the breakdown of the respondents, but that demographics information would allow us to respond in a much more strategic response for children in need. And I don't know, to me, it sounds like you're collecting an awful lot of information that's not integrated into subsequent data analysis. And so I'm not seeing the value of that demographics information, the first 10 questions. But you say that you could use it for grant writing, those other
Yes.
things, but I don't know how that's a value to the Charahoe community.
For example, this particular grant from the Department of Health is for all of South County.
Okay.
So it is for all of the groupings that I work with, which is North Kingston, South Kingston, Narragansett, Black Island, Westerly, and the Charahoe district. So it is beneficial
Okay.
To the district. But
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Chambers and then Mr. Lagorian. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mr. Abbott had his hand raised. So it's Donna, George, and then Gary. Go ahead, Donna.
Thank you for coming and thank you for doing this. And in light of the results of the first survey, the previous survey, which was a bit shocking to me. I'm naive, but a bit shocking to me. I think that it is really important to give our children this opportunity to express themselves in this way without having to reveal themselves. And I think I would totally support this survey in the sense that kids can speak and acknowledge their own identity. And my fear is by opting in rather than out, that we're not going to have the data when we collect this current survey. So that's just something that I would like to add, but thank you, because I don't know about the rest of the crew here, but it was very surprising to me what we're dealing with here. And I think some of the behaviors that we've had in the past that have been brought before the school committee have been reflective of the challenges that these children are facing now. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Abbott and then Mr. Lagori.
I was under the impression, based on my educational experiences, that personality development and choice of sexuality, if there is such a thing, isn't completely developed until a person reaches adulthood. How do you feel about that?
George, Mr. Abbott, that's really not related to the survey right now. So we're
Well, they're asking questions about, this sort of follows up on what Bill was saying. You're asking questions about sexuality.
You're asking her opinion on what?
Sexual,
about-
yeah.
Okay. I mean, do you have an opinion?
Do you have an opinion on whether it might
I
be
know
too
how-
young to ask it?
I know how critical this data is.
Right.
And I also want to agree that normally the school districts do an opt-out, not an opt-in. I know at this time of year how busy parents are. And that does concern me a bit that, they just might not have a second to look at that piece of paper or that email to actually say, yes, I want my child to participate in this, which concerns me a little bit because I do know 2020 was the first year that Cherahoe was able to participate in this, and it would be great to start being able to get some trend data from this community to see, and then to be able to target some of our evidence-based programs into the schools, into the community, as we're seeing, different things pop up. Vaping is still an enormous issue. We need to see that. We need to know what the numbers are in our districts and our schools, especially with our 8th and our 10th graders. Those are such vital times in their life. So, thank you.
Ms. Lagori?
So I have 3 questions.
Okay.
I'm not sure in any particular order, but so for one, it says on the informational sheet that 60% response rate is needed per grade class to be included. However, it said in 2020, 57% responded, yet the data were valid.
So, unfortunately, our evaluator was not able to come tonight.
Okay.
But I do believe after the data was scrubbed or cleaned, it had gone to 57%, which was very close to 60%. But normally, yes, they like a 60% participation rate so that we're looking at data so that we're not able to trickle it down to individuals.
Sure. No, I understand that. I just think I'm actually fine with the survey, but I think if I'm a parent and I'm told 60% is the threshold, but it is 57 and it's used, then you didn't honor the language in the contract. So I would be concerned with that. Second, this seems really similar to something that the youth BRFSS survey would.
The youth behavioral
Yeah,
risk survey.
you're probably familiar with. Is
YRBS.
it redundant to that?
So it is, but YRBS is not done in every town in Rhode Island. It's a select number of towns. This is every school, almost, other school districts do grades 7 through 12. So it's a much more rich, abundant look at what's going on in our schools.
Okay, so that leads to my third and final question. I realize the 2020 data were collected probably right before COVID.
Yeah.
What's been done with that information since, and what will be done? Because what it says will be done is really vague. We'll look for gaps and opportunities. What's the actual plan for what will be done with this information?
So basically what we do with it when we get this, number one, unfortunately, I don't think I have to tell you, COVID hit and, we had some data collected. We didn't have some data collected. It was supposed to be spring of 2020. It then moved to fall of 2020. Some school districts weren't able to do that. Rhode Island still really wanted that data to complete the set. Some of it moved to spring of 2021. It just really ended up not being a great data set for us to compare things to, unfortunately. But it did give us some indications of things. So what normally would happen is I will be able to come back to you in the fall, late fall, with the information. I can do a PowerPoint for you, slide deck, show you the results of the 8th and 10th graders on prevalence and risk for substances. And then what we do is really look at the data, and then you go with evidence-based programming, which will help support programs to work on those particular high-need areas, whether it's in mental health areas, vaping. I'm sure, no surprise, we're going to have probably very high numbers again on vaping. Some of our numbers seem to go down a little bit. That was because kids didn't have access to these drugs because they were home. Thank you.
Karen?
Just quick.
No, that's okay.
Are these programs that you would bring into our district, or are these programs that we would have to contract out for?
Nope, we bring everything in and we're grant funded. It's free of charge.
And how would that be administered into the school?
So all different ways. I mean, Previously, we've worked in the schools a tremendous amount. Obviously, with COVID happening, we weren't able to be in the schools the last 2 years, and that's throughout the state. But we come in and do community programs. We're doing parent education. We work with health teachers. We work with SROs, with the police departments. So we're all over the place.
Mr. Jackie, yes, please.
I have a question here. You're talking about data and being able to come back. You asked the zip code. What is this the way you identify Charahoe by the zip codes? I mean, the zip codes. What is the need of a zip code here? How are you going to tell us that these individuals are Charahoe students by the zip code?
I believe so, yes. Again, I'm not the evaluator, I apologize. But that's something that's done statewide.
Well, there's a little
because-
information here. There's probably about 10 zip codes for Charahoe. Some of them
Right.
involve Westerly, some of them involve South Kingston. But so I hope that your evaluator has got some way to determine that when somebody has a Bradford zip code, they could be either in Hopkinton or in Westerly. And if somebody has a West Kingston zip code, they could be in Richmond or they could be in West Kingston. So this to me is another reason why this thing is probably not as effectively as you're trying to portray this.
Bill, I suspect every survey is coded per school district.
Right.
So that would be an easy differentiator when they get the results.
Why do they want a zip code then?
So they can do exactly what you're saying, differentiate between Bradford and Westerly.
Any other questions? All right, no? Okay, there's been a motion. Yes, Donna.
Yeah, I would like to have, well, we have a motion on the floor to accept this survey?
Sure.
I
To
would-
approve it, actually, yeah.
To approve it, okay. I would like to have a little discussion about, some discussion about opting in rather than opting out rather than opting in. I think it's kind of coddling the parents to say that they have to opt in. I mean, if we send information home about what this survey is, then it's up to the parents to determine whether they want to opt their children out of the survey. I don't think that we should be just allowing them to say, yes, I can have my child participate. I would rather see it opting out. What do I want? Opting out rather than opting in. Yes. Okay, anyway. I just think it would give us better tracking, as you said, and better data. And I think it's important data, personally, to gather for the kids. Anyway. So do I make a motion? Do I amend the motion?
There's a motion. There is a motion, but it's an opt-in motion. We do have someone from the audience that has a comment first
Okay.
who'd like to speak. But then we can get back to Donna's.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Sylvia. I'm from Hopkinton. Just to give a parent's perspective on this, sometimes children don't hand you important papers and they get lost in the backpack or it never comes home. This survey makes me a bit uncomfortable to be thinking that my child could be given it without my knowledge and without my consent, because the paper didn't come home for me to opt out. So I think if parents want to opt in, then that's okay. But I don't think that the school has any business having surveys with those kind of personal questions being administered at school. This kind of survey could be administered by a pediatrician, but parents need to have, they need to have the option to opt in. If it's important to them for their children to be answering these personal questions, they're all minors. It shouldn't be tried to be slid under the rug without the parents' knowledge.
But just to respond to that, I appreciate what you're saying. However, you could miss if you wanted your child to participate in the survey because you're interested in seeing this kind of data in the environment that the kids live in.
Well, that would be on me. That would
You
be
would
on
miss
me.
that paper also. So,
I
I mean.
could miss that paper also.
Yeah.
But my child wouldn't be participating in something without my knowledge
Thank you.
that I'm not comfortable with. If it's an opt-in. If it's an opt-out, then they'd be participating in something without my knowledge. And I don't think that's right at all.
Thank you. Ms. McAllister? And then we have, I want to give somebody from the committee needs to speak first, and then we can go to the audience. Ms.
Could it
McAllister?
be an electronic information to the parents and they can opt in or opt out?
It is electronic. It's via Google form. It
So
would be
does that
electronic.
go to the parents?
Correct.
Okay,
So it's Google, but they need to sign permission and opt in.
okay.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Kelly?
I prefer the opt-in.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Karen?
No, I think we had a.
Okay, back. Yes, thank you.
So, high school kids have been having sex as long as
Yeah,
oh, I apologize. I'm Lindsay White from Charlestown.
thank you.
I fear that there is a lot of students in the district that are not allowed to be who they are at home. And I feel that, I support whatever you decide to, opt in or opt out. But I feel like if it's left up to the parents, you're not going to get accurate responses. I feel that there are a lot of students in the district that are not being supported the way that they need to be. And I feel that mental health is a major issue. I personally was raped at 16 years old and have suffered from mental health issues ever since. This is something that has been going on. I'm 42 years old. So it's happening, whether you want to pretend it's not. I think giving them the options of seeking help or just having an outlet of being who they are is a much safer option. Just my opinion.
Thank you. Dr. Callahan?
Yeah, so
Thank you, sir.
I totally understand it, and thank you for sharing. I guess my position on this is that there's an awful lot of personal demographic information being asked of the students. And this is a survey. It's just a survey. And I think that there's enough information that's parents are going to have a hard time with. And so I think that the opt-in is the position that we should have. And if we don't get the or the number of respondents that we need for this to work, then we look at this again next year and adjust then. Or, I could even consider getting rid of the first 10 questions on the demographic side, which makes the survey a lot more palatable. But I want to stay with the opt-in at this point.
Yes.
That was going to be my next. I mean, if there are questions that the committee would like to get rid of, I think at this point we could probably do that for the sake of having, higher than 60% response rate. So that at least we're getting the information known on usage and risk and the prevalence of these substances, rather than if it's a boy or a girl or ethnicity or.
Catherine?
This is time sensitive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So did you have a date in mind of when you were thinking you were going to administer this survey?
It has to be completed by the end of the school year, by June.
Right. Okay. Because it sounds like I am okay with the survey as it stands, but I led the conversation with parents or should have the option to opt in or out of the survey. So I understand that there are some people who don't want their children to ask these questions. If there's an opportunity to amend the survey so you're still getting information on drug use, alcohol use, vaping, but getting rid of those identifying questions, I think that the committee might have an appetite to amend the survey. I don't know if we want to do that tonight or if, what the pleasure of the committee is.
Gotta wait 2 weeks.
Yeah, Mr. Legori and then Mr. Day.
So I spent the better part of my academic career designing surveys similar to this, distributing them, collecting the data, and creating interventions where there were opportunities. And from my perspective, getting rid of the demographic questions makes the information basically useless. If you find out there's a large number of people doing whatever or not doing whatever, what you want to do is create an intervention to make it better. But if you don't know who the people are, your intervention is going to be broad, and decades of public health research will show you that a broad intervention is useless. You have to target your population. So I'm opposed to the opt-out or opt-in, but I'm more opposed to getting rid of the demographic information because then it's a pointless survey in my opinion. So personally, I'd rather have a lower response rate, but we can target whomever than get rid of what I think is actually the most critical information.
It's good information. Mr. Day and then Ms. McAllister.
I think that we ought to give the parents an opportunity to opt in. I think this is what the parents in this country want nowadays. That they're a little bit concerned and fed up with some of the school districts. They see where school committees and teachers are saying they're better equipped to deal with their kids and the parents. So I think this is where we should be going.
Ms. McAllister.
I was just going to say that I think we should move forward the way it is and then assess that data next year when we have something to look at. We don't know now how many parents are not going to opt in. So I say go ahead with it the way it is.
With it as it stands, opting in. Okay. Ms.
Sorry, final
That's
thought.
okay, and then someone, we have a student. in the
Oh,
back.
I will yield to the student.
Okay, thank you. Please come to the podium. Hello.
Hello. I'm Isabel Sullivan Ratcliffe. I live in Hope Valley, Hopkinton. I just kind of wanted to give the student perspective as someone who's actually taken the survey. I found that, the questions, I found that they were fine. They didn't, sway me to have my sexuality be something or another. I just took it and, I think if anything, students find it as an annoyance of something they have to do when they don't want to do it, but I don't think it harms them in any way to answer demographic questions. And I agree with the opt-out. I'm pretty sure I don't think it's necessary that parents need to opt in because I think that would deter students from filling out this information that can provide useful information to the district and to the state. So from the student perspective, I found that these surveys have caused no harm to the students. From myself and talking to other students, it's something that I think has been perfectly fine the way it is, and I think it should continue the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good perspective. Ms. Houston.
So my final thought, because I've had many bites of the apple, so I apologize. If we make this an opt-in, which I think is fine, if we keep the questions the way that they are, which I also think is fine, so it's a useful survey. We give it a shot for a year, which I also think is fine. I would just respectfully ask that when it goes out to parents, because I've got a 10th grader, please make it a standalone piece. Don't put it in the blog. Don't put it in something like that, because respectfully, I get lots of emails and it just all gets lost. So I would like it to be a very targeted, this is an important email. Please pay attention. Please opt into this survey, and a clear and concise small bite of why we're collecting this data, I think would be appreciated as a parent.
It's very good. Good.
Thank you.
Good recommendation.
Could we have a clarification on exactly what the motion is?
Sure. We have a parent. I can say it. The motion was, oh, sorry.
Hi, Polly Hopkins,
Sorry.
Hopkinton. I actually have a question. Maybe you know, or she knows. How long does this survey take?
30 minutes or less.
30 minutes or less? I looked for it. I couldn't find it. Thank you. So I was just wondering,
What did you say?
So
It
45
says 30
minutes.
minutes or less. in
30
the
minutes
document.
or
Right.
less.
Okay, I appreciate it, thanks.
Thanks, Mel. Anybody else? So on the table right now is to approve the survey as is with an opt-in option, meaning the parents have to give permission. That's on the table right now. So are we ready to take it to a vote? Okay. Mr. Day, did you have another
No,
comment?
no,
Okay.
I'm ready to vote.
Okay. Those in favor of the recommendation of the survey being sent out as is with an opt-in for parents, those in favor? Those opposed? Any abstentions or
She sold
refusals?
me.
There was one.
But she wanted the option.
I know.
That was a good discussion. Thank you all very much. Okay, on to, budget.
This is for FY '23 budget adjustments. On May 5th, the majority of voters let us know that they did not support our budget and that in essence, our 0.96% increase was too high. We do remain committed to providing each and every student in Charlestown, Richmond, and Hopkinton with a high-quality public education. At the same time, we continue to recognize our responsibility to taxpayers, and we continue to think through ways to increase efficiencies and revenue without negatively impacting the quality of our programs. I would be remiss if I did not mention that we were able to keep our budget at a 0.96% increase because we had ESSER funding to purchase our professional development, curriculum resources for both English language arts and mathematics, which are required by state legislation and must be in place by 2023. As ESSER sunsets in September 2024, there will be items that are state mandated, such as science curricular resources and ongoing curricular resource needs for English and mathematics K through 12. Our team is working to ensure that we have a strong return on investment, and we have seen strong student progress in reading, writing, and mathematics during the school year. However, it will be important to keep this momentum. I have prepared a list of potential cuts for the committee to review. None of these are easy. None of these will all be difficult, as anything will impact our budget, but will move us to a level fund. I have made several cuts from all departments as it relates to supplies. An example would be that novels are requested, for example, for middle school teachers that are supplemental and to enhance the curriculum, but they are not required. There were several furniture requests to replace old furniture. We have also pulled back on these as well. We have reviewed our current out-of-district special education tuition numbers based on our enrollment. As of today, they would equate to annual tuitions of $1,084,433.39. We had additional students enter already through the course of the year after the budget was created, an additional 4. The high school science position was finalized as we had a request for a leave of absence recently come through. And the high school also reviewed their course requests, and based on those requests, the high school admin team agrees that we could cut the science position and not affect programming at the high school. The 0.5 high school librarian and 0.5 middle school librarian was vacant due to the resignation of a teacher moving out of state at the end of January. Both teams agree that this position can be cut without major impacts on student programming. A clerk fiscal position was recently vacated, and as a result, we are recommending that we merge those responsibilities with the district registration clerk. The Richmond Elementary School grade 3 is proposed as a cut as well, and will make class sizes 21 students in 3 of the classrooms and 22 in 1 of the classrooms based on our current enrollment. The summer is aligned with our contract, which allows up to 25 students. The Charleston Elementary School grade 4 is another potential cut, which would make our class size to 23 in both of those classrooms. This class is also aligned with our current contract. I'm happy to review however you want to begin with the committee and to clarify and answer your questions.
Yes, so I'd like to, yes, Mr.
Gina, how many elementary world language teachers do we have?
We have 2.
Are they full-time?
They're both full-time, correct?
I would personally prefer to see them cut before you cut any elementary teachers.
So I was not here when the district created the strategic plan, and typically when you create a strategic plan, it's supposed to safeguard those goals and action steps related to that, which is why I would not have put up the world language. As the committee who passes that strategic plan and approves the final, that could be something you do. But I can tell you, once you make those cuts, like anything else, to reinstitute that level of work with global citizenship would be very difficult because you've now told the public and teachers that take those positions that they're at risk. And world language teachers, I can tell you, are very difficult to find, even for our high school and middle school. I'm just one.
Mr. Callahan.
So what's the
Yeah.
number that needs to be removed from this budget to achieve a level funded position?
Thank you for asking that.
So we have to cut 545,000 to be able to get to level funding.
545.
And any number other than that would have to go back to the voters.
Correct.
Just so the committee knows where my head's at, I do not think a budget will pass. I'm encouraging all of you to level fund tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually, just to clarify, my apologies, $525,750 exactly.
Say that again, please.
$525,750 exactly to be at level funding.
That saves us a little bit right there.
Just to clarify, in your pages, those are the items below your last decisions, which were on 4/12/22. Those are all included. It's all the lines that have a blank next to each of the amounts, and that represents our action today,
Yeah, our proposed action.
our proposed actions.
Sorry.
Okay, go
Just
ahead. Yeah,
to
just to
clarify,
clarify.
that list that's published, that's below the yellow block, all of those items in aggregate reach the 525 number
Correct.
to the penny.
You know, Ned,
Okay.
it's to the penny.
So just to follow that, the 1.4, Ned, that's the total from all the previous.
From
cuts
all the
also.
previous actions, yep.
So where it says proposed 51022 down, would give us the 525,750.
So, to example, if we were to remove the grade 4 and grade 3 at Richmond and Charlestown and add the world language, you would take those out and it would be the same cost.
I know there was hands raised. Okay, Mr. Luzon, Mr. Day, you next? Okay, Ms. Luzon?
If the state is so impressed with our resolution, hey, I'm optimistic, okay? If the state is so impressed with that and they give us categorical transportation funding after this, does that change anything here? Because we're voting to go to level funded, if what Ryan's proposing?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Draper.
So where I think that would take us, and as you can see, we've gotten to the place in our list where we're also affecting our ability to navigate COLA. I think that's where our conversation would lead if we were able to get more revenue. At this point in time, there's really no guarantees until that comes in, so we can't budget for it.
You know,
And COLA, because of the timing of our negotiation process, that's when we would be able to apply that resource.
And there are, as you all know, there are other items that we've already under budgeted. For example, fuel, we had it at $3.09. It's already almost close to $5. I mean, we're hoping that that's going to be lowered, but so we have areas we have to watch for fuel, transportation, and oil as well. As long, and I can, like I explained with special education tuitions, we've already saw 4 additional increases, and they're not DCYF placements. They're actually at $80,000, not $55,000.
Well, personally, I can accept what Ryan's proposing, but I not with the elementary.
No, I understood. And again, just to clarify, strategic plan goals is not, I was not a part of that, so I need to
We
make
didn't have
sure
a
that
crystal
that's-
ball when we did it either.
No, I understand. I understand.
Ms. Chambers and then Mr. Kelly.
What we had.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, my mistake, I apologize, Mr. Day. He had, yeah, then Ms. Chambers, sorry, Mr. Day. He had
That's
his-
right.
I fully understand the concerns of the elementary school teachers, but we're not violating a contract that the teachers signed many years ago, and it just continued to accept class size. We're under class size. The problem we have in the district is that the towns created Charahoe. The towns can improve Charahoe. When you got class sizes in Hopkinton in the high teens and the 20s, this is where the money is going. And until the towns are prepared to turn around and make this more of a regional school district so that we have the ability to adjust class sizes as it pertains to locality as opposed to the town borders, then we're always going to have this problem. So I strongly believe what Ryan has said, that we don't want to insult the voters again by trying to force another vote down their throat, and we should just accept the superintendent's recommendations. As I said the last meeting, we hired her, we have faith in her, and now we're turning around telling her she doesn't know what the hell she's doing, in plain English. So I support her recommendations, and I would hope that the rest of the committee would, and hope that we can get through this year with some additional state funding. The governor did us a big favor by, if people don't understand it, he level funded every school district in the state of Rhode Island, whether you increased your population or whether you decreased your population. That's an insult to a place like Charahoe, who has an increase in population, and other school districts, and I don't know the numbers, but they're out there, and they could probably tell me a few of them, but their population decreased, but they still got the same amount of money as they got last year. And we're getting the same amount of money that we got this year, basically. And we have an increase in population, and we have some damn good school buildings down here, administrators and the like. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Joy. Ms. Chambers and then Mr. Callahan.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin. We do not, I have a question for Gina, but I want to piggyback on what Craig said, and that is when we made these recommendations and we put these wonderful things in our strategic plan, and we did everything we could over the last, 8 years from my experience, to improve the technology, as Susie just so eloquently presented to us, and we're getting paybacks for that investment in the technology. We are listening to the voters. We have no choice but to listen to the voters. But the crystal ball that we should have had would say that the voters would not continue to improve or support the funding of improvements on the things that we have worked very hard. My fear is over the next few years that it starts going backwards. And I see that happening, especially when we have increased costs, which we have not just in fuel, but in salaries, in COLA, and everything else like we do in our own personal budgets. Gina, you said that we have already the number that we have had in the past of out of tuition costs.
Special
Education costs, which we have no choice on. I wish the voters would consider taking that kind of energy that they did to appeal to us and to appeal to the citizens of our 3 towns to not vote for this budget, but to vote it down. I wish they would take that energy to Providence and to the State House, so that we're not tied to these mandates that we have to be tied to, like paying for tuition. One student could cost this district $1 million. We have no choice in these. So much of the budget was no choice, as Gina said. We had no options on these things. But the citizens have voted, and I hope that they will accept the consequences where we have to cut. I don't want to cut any of this. I don't want to cut staff. I think it's bad for morale for our teachers. We saw the display of the support staff this earlier in the meeting. What do we say to them? Where do we find the money to give them what they really need? Anyway, I'm going on, and I don't mean to, but I hope when those that are opposed and feel like it's really important to get the public out to vote down the budget will reconsider the consequences of these very drastic changes we have to make. We have a bare bones budget, and something we'll have to give. That's it. Anyway.
Mr. Callahan and then Karen.
I'll defer to Karen.
Okay.
Okay, so just a couple of basic questions. Are we seeing an increase in negative behavior in our larger classrooms?
Not necessarily. I think we all know you could have 15 students in a classroom and have increased behaviors. It's not necessarily related to size, but we definitely have seen an increase K through 12 in our mental health needs and our students who are requiring more support. Absolutely.
Okay. Would cutting world language affect our biliteracy seal as we get closer to the high school?
No,
Like
it's a
what-
great question. So previous to my coming into Charahoe, the school committee had made a cut to the world language program. So that sort of goes into the visioning of what the goal was. I believe you had it twice a week in elementary school with the goal of fluency, be able to enter grade 5 with fluency. It's now 1 day a week. And with that, really what you're doing is more of an exposure as opposed to a fluency-based. So it is a larger visioning question, but right now, the way the program stands, it's not built the way I think it was originally intended.
So it's not built the way it was originally
Right
written
now,
into
correct.
our strategic
It,
plan.
it was implemented with the idea of the 2 days a week to be able to increase the fluency, to be able to enter into grade 5. Unfortunately, when the first cut was made to go down to 1 day a week, it really is now more of an exposure-based program.
Good question.
They work very hard and they try their best, but 1 day a week is very difficult in elementary school.
Would that impact our specials at the elementary
No,
level?
because our teachers are part of that work. They don't get that time off.
Okay.
All good questions. Dr. Callahan? You just once said we need to have the committee speak first, but I'll give you an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I think we know the number we need to get to in order to achieve a level fund position. And I agree with Bill that Gina and Ned, you've done a great job going back through this again. I do feel that given some of the uncertainties in some of these other areas, fuel oil being one of them, and just life in general, students that come into the district and we need to add teachers or something to that effect. I do feel we have a bit more exposure in this budget. However, I think that we've agreed that we're going to move to a level fund position. I know we didn't vote on it, but I think that's where everybody's head's at. And we know the dollar amount we need to remove. I accept the list that you have provided us, except I do not accept the Charlestown or the Richmond Elementary School teacher eliminations. And instead, I would propose that we reduce row 360, the amount needed in order to achieve the 525 position.
630 or 360?
630.
6:30.
So it's either 630 or 631. Is it added? It's listed in two places, but that's my proposal to this.
The COLA.
Correct.
So I know Ms. Luzon's recommendation, the conversation was world language, but and just Dr. Kelly, yours is the leave the grade the
Keep
four and
world
third part,
language.
but change the COLA.
Keep third and fourth grade teachers
Oh, keep that in.
and change the COLA.
Okay. So put $160,000 into the COLA and keep the 2 teachers
Yes, ma'am.
and the world language.
Yes, ma'am.
Does everyone understand that? Okay. Karen, you have a question?
Well, what's the negative impact of doing that?
What do you mean by the negative? He wants to take the amount from the 2 teachers and take it from the COLA line item.
Okay.
It impacts all subsequent negotiations.
Yeah, it impacts negotiations.
Okay.
So I think right now, just to kind of put everyone, right now, we have 3 options, it looks like. Do we have a motion no, we're just, no, okay, good. So right now, it looks like we have option 1 is to accept the cuts as was presented, with meaning eliminating the 2 teachers. Okay, and amongst other things, but that's kind of where the big issues are. Option 2 would be to eliminate world language and keep the 2 classroom teachers. That was brought to the table for discussion. And then option 3 was the final one that Dr. Callahan just suggested, was to keep all cuts as presented by Gina and her staff, but to increase the cost of living or to, I guess,
the cost of the teachers to be taken out of the COLA line and not by $160, of $160,000. So those are the three options. Did I get those correct? That's it, right? Yes.
Could you elaborate more on the COLA?
Maybe Mr. Ned, would you
Sure.
do that? Probably the numbers
So-
guy.
So looking down at the bottom of the page, the CES grade 4 and the RES grade 3, those would go to zero. And that $160,000 would be added to the cut at the cost of living adjustment.
Right.
So it would climb to 232,702.
I think maybe the question is, what does that mean for cost of living raises
Right.
in the district?
That would significantly reduce the amount we could offer. Won't get into specific percentages because
Right.
we still have
Because
a,
we still have,
I just think the
Negotiation
people in the
process to
audience
go.
should know what's being talked about
Right.
right now.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree. It's confusing. That's why I was trying to. Okay.
Now, just make sure you're in the microphone.
so, yeah, sure.
Thank you, Kathy.
So what would happen is with that cut, it would significantly reduce the options we have for cost of living adjustment. So to Mr. Luzon's point before, at this time in the budget, we have to stick with what we know. And unless the transportation categorical came through, we'd be limited in what we can say between now and when that funding would come through. So we'd have to make peace with a very low amount available for a cost of living adjustment,
Which is,
trying to avoid that.
well, I think it
percentage
should be
for negotiation.
stated,
We'll say it.
Yeah.
a raise.
Yeah, oh, a raise, yes.
Raises and
And-
negotiating.
And world language, elementary, how much time per week do our kids get?
It's one period a week.
One
And
period.
which is how long?
Once
A
it's
half hour?
Half an hour, 35 minutes.
A half an hour.
Yeah, 35.
None of these are easy. Yes, Mr. Day.
For what it's worth, I support Mr. Lazan's option 2. I think that that would be the less painful to the majority of the faculty and students here.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Yes, ma'am. Now's your time. You
I
were
also
very
agree with
patient. Thank you.
option 2, but I want to make one other point, and that
Could you
is,
just remind us who? I have
yes,
you
I'm
down
Helen
here.
Sheehan from Richmond.
I'm sorry, Sheehan?
Sheehan, Helen Sheehan from Richmond.
There were 2 positions that were moved from the regular budget and using to the ESSER funds. So positions were still funded, but they didn't count as the regular school budget.
Correct.
My concern is that when the ESSER funds are done, we have 2 positions that are funded that now will be added to our tax base.
Or cut, depending on the
You got it.
situation. Yeah, we are concerned with that.
And just to clarify, the positions for ESSER are built to build capacity in those 2 years, not to maintain those. The only position moved that I would recommend in operation was the dean for the middle
dean,
school,
yeah.
to be able to support.
Okay, that was good thinking. Yes, ma'am. Now it's your turn. I'm sorry. Thank you for waiting.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Sawatsky, and I live in Charlestown. And I'm actually the mother of 2 children at Charlestown Elementary School. And my son is actually entering 4th grade in the fall. I'm also a middle school teacher in another district. And I understand the importance of small class size. I do feel discouraged that Charlestown approved the budget, yet a 4th grade Charlestown Elementary School teacher may be cut. If a 4th grade teacher is cut, the 4th grade class size is estimated to shift from 15 to 16 students to 23 students, which you stated earlier. This is nearly a 50% increase in class size. This is a significant change for the students in their last year of elementary school. This impacts personalization of instruction, addressing gaps in the needs of learners, and valuable time may be spent on classroom management rather than teaching and learning. Next year's 4th graders were in 1st grade. My son was in 1st grade, and when the pandemic ended, they're in school learning in March. And consequently, 3 of their academic years have been affected by COVID precautions and restrictions. And therefore, these students deserve to be educated in a classroom with fewer classmates so that they can get individualized attention and the instruction that they need. And as an educator, I've experienced negative impact on larger class sizes, on student learning. Now's not really the time to increase class size, and our children deserve better. And I understand that the class sizes will go up possibly when they're in elementary school. In my district, it's 29 students, which is a lot, but just my son and his needs. And I get really nervous speaking in front of big adult groups. So I'm okay in front of students, but anyway, so thank you for your time. And have a nice evening.
So I'm Lindsay White from Charlestown. I had a very emotional day today. I had my last IEP meeting with the Charlestown team that has been phenomenal with my family. All three of my kids went through there. I currently have one in high school and one in the middle school. And I have two children that have been diagnosed with ADHD. They have benefited so much from the Charlestown experience. I'm going to miss my support system. Cassie Charette is the most amazing person. If it weren't for her, my child would still be, I don't even know how far behind. So in January, I was diagnosed with the flu. A couple days later, my son got COVID. My youngest wasn't completely vaccinated at the time. I didn't know what I was going to do. Pouring down rain, I hear a knock at my door. I get up, and she's running back to her car. She dropped off at my door the supplies that my daughter needed. I work for Tri-County Community Action in heating assistance, which is still on the link. Thank you. So I have been tremendously short-staffed this year, and I have been beating myself up that I'm not checking that my 9-year-old ADHD child is doing her homework. And Cassie has been supportive of me every step of the way. I can't say enough good about all of the teachers in Charlestown. When COVID hit and I had 2 kids at home with ADHD, trying to distance learn and manage all that, Mrs. Iredale knew that I was struggling and gave me her personal cell phone number and said, if you need to talk, you can call me at any time. So today, my daughter was found ineligible for special education services after having struggled since birth. I knew at birth that she had issues. I could go on and on about how much she is needed, and all of them really. I just want to say to the people that are voting down the budget because of your own personal beliefs and agendas, you're going to hurt the kids. Absolutely. I brought my own daughter here today to inspire me, to inspire her. It's disgusting. And where do you people find the time to respond to all these comments that you don't agree with? And it's heartbreaking. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So if we have classes, we do have a contract with the teachers, and they can go up to 25 kids in a class. So
could you just explain to people what happens if it's by September 1st where they exceed the 25, or if it's October 1st if they exceed the 25? Because there's a chance when you're getting 23, 24 kids, you don't know what's going to happen in the summer. We could get more kids.
Yep.
So would we be hiring teachers? Would they be getting an additional stipend? Could you elaborate, please?
Right, if it's before October 1st, we would have to hire the teacher. If it's over the 25, so once we hit the 26, and if it's after October 1st, we would pay the teachers for the overages.
Okay, I just want the people to hear that. Thank you.
Mr. Day?
I can't speak for the rest of the people, but I'm ready to vote, and I'd make a motion that we vote on option 2, as Mr. Lazan said earlier, because we could go on all night here, going back and forth. What we need to start making a decision. If that one gets voted down, then we need to make a motion on
So,
another
Mr. Day, just so I'm
option.
clear, option 2 is all of the cuts proposed, removing the Charlestown grade 4 and the Richmond grade 3 for the 2 world language teachers.
Yes, that's my motion.
That's his motion. Anyone want to make a second?
Second.
Mr. Luzon made a second. I open that up to discussion before we take the vote. Ms. Chambers?
Well, it doesn't have to do with what we just made the motion for.
Okay, well then, we need to, the discussion needs to be about that motion.
Okay, well, I just wanted to respond to the public comment.
No,
that
not
was
right
just-
yet, but,
Okay,
okay, but you
all right.
will, okay. Ms. Spears, you have
Yeah,
the floor.
Gina mentioned that it's harder to recruit for that position later, right? For a world language teacher. So I know that our knee-jerk reaction is to make some decisions about the immediacy because the public is poorly informed and doesn't understand the longer-term repercussions of some of those situations. But I just wanted to point out it's harder to recruit for a world language teacher later if we cut it now.
Yes.
It has been, yes. That is historically
accurate.
been true. Yes, you're welcome. Any other option? Yeah, Mr. Callahan.
Yeah, just if you cut the world language, and I understand the position and the motion, that's it. It's gone from the
Yeah,
elementary
gone.
school.
For a while.
Recovering that's going to be incredibly difficult. I would encourage that we think long and hard about that. I think that it's been a district-wide objective. It's going to send repercussions through there. So I guess, Gina, if this happens and we want to reinstate it, what's our time frame?
Well, if we want to reinstate it, it would be difficult once they would get layoff letters. So that they would absolutely pursue opportunities, which would exist because right now it is very difficult to find world language teachers. So I'm sure that if we decided to reinstitute them at any point, finding 2 teachers to take those positions and believe that they're not going to be at the table because it provides a risk would be very incredibly difficult. And I realize none of these decisions are easy.
Yes, ma'am. Good.
Sylvia again from Hopkinton. I'd just like to speak to, I feel like the value of the world language is very important to the kids. The value of the teachers are very important to the kids. The majority of the public voting no we're voting no in the sense that we want the spending to be looked at very carefully and being financially responsible, considering the times that we're in right now. Everyone is facing increases in cost of living and whatnot. I'm a physical therapist. I have my doctorate. I've been a physical therapist for 13 years. And in all 13 years of my working, I have never seen a raise because in healthcare, hospitals have been getting bought out. And when that happens, whether a hospital is merging or in receivership, the first thing that gets cut, so to speak, is raises. And it's not to say that I don't think that teachers value raises, but it's hard for me to look and say I would rather cut 2 teachers' salaries where they're jobless then maybe we forgo the raises. That to me seems like a little, we're working together, and each side is compromising, but we're saving a teacher's livelihood and position, that we're saving their position and the value that the world language program has for Charahoe. So it's not, everybody has to be able to give. We're all having to tighten our wallets right now. Everyone's budget for oil and gas is going up. It just seems that I thought that was a great idea that you had to take the money from that and save the positions for the teachers.
Thank you.
Good evening, Louise Dinsmore, Richmond. I have a couple of questions. I'm not sure if they could be answered at this time before I make comment about the budget. So my first question is, was there, in fact, a budget surplus last fiscal year at the end of last fiscal year? And if so, how much was that?
Yes, there's an unassigned fund balance of, I believe it was roughly 3.4 million.
Okay, so an unassigned fund balance of 3.44 million. Would, in fact, last year at this time, were there students that were forecasted to come into the district and students that actually, when the school year started, were expected to come into the district but actually didn't come into the district? So when we're talking about classroom sizes, was there a projection last year of how many kids were perhaps going to go into third grade, but maybe that number was higher when the school year started or lower than when the school year started?
We had an increase this year than what was projected.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. I appreciate that. So I think in light of the comments that Mr. Draper just made about a budget surplus of 3.4 million, I would be absolutely against elementary school teachers' positions being removed. We're looking at $160,000 for those two positions. And if we had a robust budget surplus, I'm not sure why we're even having this discussion, unless I don't understand this discussion. If you have, okay, go ahead.
Gets recycled back into the current budget that you're looking at. So that there's, in the presentation that's online, goes through the difference of the unassigned fund balance versus the assigned fund balance. So I'm going to let the finance director take it over, but in essence, the money that was already in was already placed back into this year's budget.
Okay, but
So do you want to?
So,
okay, go ahead,
so,
Ned.
yeah, when I misspoke, it was 3.2 million.
Okay.
But the way the Charahoe Act functions, we go through this process because Charahoe, as a regional district, doesn't have taxing authority. We go to the towns, they tax the individuals, and then they send us a check. We get approval from all of the voters as to what our appropriation is. Going to the fund balance, by policy, the school committee has to set aside a certain amount of fund balance so that we don't get into trouble. That's one of the things about a regional school district. Because of the broad base of our budget as compared to the local budgets, we're a significant operation. At over $60 million, we have a lot of commitments that we have to meet.
Of course.
That includes bond commitments.
$60 million, and we're looking at $160,000 where two teacher positions are at risk. So what I'm saying is, let's try to sharpen the pencils and find $160,000 if that's possible, so two elementary school teachers can keep their jobs. Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening. Name is Michael Colasanti, Richmond resident. Couple of things you mentioned. I think one was great about the mandates. If you want to take local control and power away, just keep mandating more items. Now, you said about going down to the General Assembly and being an advocate to take some of these mandates away. If you spearhead it, you'll have a ton of people behind you. And there's no better person to spearhead this than somebody who's already an elected official on the school committee. You will hold more weight when you go to the General Assembly and you speak on a particular item such as that.
So let me just add, it's ride mandates also. It's not law, it's ride mandates that we have to comply with. That's big.
Yeah, over the last 20 or 30 years, it makes my head spin about how many new mandates they've implemented. And all it does is it takes local power, local control away. Because now, while we're trying to discuss this about budgetary issues, you know that there's only so much we can do because we'd have to go to the state level in order to come back here to rectify some of the issues that we have, okay? And, you know, what you said about bare bones budget, years back when I was really involved, I never advocated cutting a position because that is the easiest thing anybody can do. You need no expertise to do that. No information at hand. You could just stand up like I'm doing right now and say, let's cut positions or let's cut payroll. Let's not give people raises. I don't know if it was something that the business manager at that time, who was Ron DeFabio under Andriotti and John Pini, maybe they missed these items. So it's always good to get feedback from the general public that will go through the budget and give you their viewpoint of maybe you missed this. One of those line items that they missed, and again, the school committee members said exactly what you said, is that this is a bare bones budget. There's nothing we can cut from this. Then I looked at this particular line item. There were 30 teachers retiring at the high step, 30 new teachers coming in. They were still budgeting for the 30 high step teachers, taking into account the higher salary, the benefit packages, and, you know, now the newer teachers coming in, there's more that they pay towards their health insurance co-pays and whatnot. So there was a savings of like almost $450,000 on a $21 million budget. So we're not perfect human beings, and maybe the current business manager, maybe he misses things. Somebody mentioned Brian Stanley, great guy. Anybody who knows Brian is a straight shooter. After he became business manager, when Ron DeFabio retired, when I bumped into Brian one day, he said to me, and I quote this, and anybody who knows Brian knows he's a straight shooter. He said to me, Mike, there is so much waste. Okay, now when it's on somebody else's dollar, it's a little easy to be a little bit more loosey-goosey the way money is spent. So with the business manager, and this isn't meant to be disrespectful to you, but you have some good resources here, that there are a lot of people that look at this budget, and basically I did pretty much like what you would consider like almost a forensic audit, okay? And there were 3 years that Charahoe did not get an increase. First year, 1.9 million was cut. Second year, 650,000 was cut. And then the third year, the Hopkins taxpayers wanted 1.9 million. I only advocated 1.3. And what was cut that third year was 1.3. I did my homework. And not one teacher, not one student lost sports, lost books, paper material, curriculum. Not one thing was lost. It was just created a tighter ship. And that's exactly what we do in the private
So
sector.
do you have a suggestion or something we want to?
Getting together with some of us that have looked through the budget, and like I said, maybe you missed something. Maybe we can, bring it to your attention, and you could say to yourself, gee, thank you very much, and then it's a win-win situation all the way around. That's all we're asking. And again, I don't advocate cutting anybody. Through COVID, with my two businesses, I did not cut one person from payroll. I actually paid out of pocket. I don't want a pat on the back. I paid out of pocket to keep some of these people working through COVID because I know how important it is, all right, to keep your staff there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. Please come to the podium.
Hello, thank you. My name is Jeff Noble, and I live in Richmond, Rhode Island. I wish to talk about the decision about COLA versus staffing, but also want to just hit a few highlights. Sorry, first of all, I was in the military, about to retire with 20 years of service, ended 7 years here with the Rhode Island Guard in Quonset. I grew up in St. Mary's, Ohio, small farm town. And the reason I bring all of this up is basically the high school I graduated from had a level fund, or the school system had basically a level fund. The high school building I graduated from was built in 1929. My great-grandfather was on the school committee when the building was built. My grandfather, my father, and I all graduated from the same building. And the reason why I bring all of this up is to talk about the consequences that I think we're not really addressing too much. Inflation is at nearly 8%, and that means that these cuts or level funding is actually a cut of 8%. And what does that mean to the school system? Well, obviously, no raises for teachers. That means they get an 8% cut. It means 8% of the curriculum is going to have to be cut, 8% of the transportation, 8% of any item that you think of that's a fixed cost or is going to increase as our dollar value goes down is going to be a cut. It seems like everyone here thinks that, well, it's the same dollar amount, so it's not a cut. And that is completely wrong. That's not how economics work. I was an economics major, I'm sorry. I'm very nervous because I'm very passionate about this. My 3 kids go here. We thought about moving, looked at other school districts around the country because I have a job which I can fortunately commute to, and we wanted to stay here. And it just, I wish the school committee would talk more about the consequences of what we're going to lose and communicate that to the public, because I feel that it might not be articulated clearly enough. So basically, I know no one wants to lose their jobs, and I know we don't want to, forego teacher raises, but the thing is like we're all just trying to stop the bleeding now, because apparently the voters feel that the best course of action is to not have a tax increase and not fund our kids. Like, I mean, who doesn't want to fund our kids? I just don't understand this. I've been advocating for the budget online. I encourage a lot of more people to do this. I encourage people to come out and talk about the negative consequences of the voters' actions. I'm very passionate about this, as you can probably tell, but I don't think people understand that this is only going to get worse as time goes on, because the cost of everything that goes into the school is going to go up, and what's going to get cut? It's going to be the easy things first, and then the infrastructure, right? I mean, we just had a fire at Richmond Elementary last night. I mean, I mean, that's going to incur costs. It's going to eat into your budget surplus that you talk about, because you have to pay for these unexpected things. I feel that there's a bunch of people around here who think that you guys willy-nilly come up with a budget, and that is completely not true. I want to say that I support you 100%. Please do the best for our kids. I appreciate all the hard work you put into. I know no one is getting rich around here doing the school committee work. And again, I want to say thank you. Have a great night.
Well, that is a tough act to follow. Real quick, Mr. Luzon, I wanted to thank you for bringing up that point about the COLA. And I just want to make sure we're clear on that. I respectfully respectfully disagree, I think, with some of the cuts being made and everything else, especially regarding staffing. But I can tell you something right now. You're going to have to replace 150 support staff. They're not going to continue to stay here for the rates that they're going. And as far as I know, there's been some administrative and higher level raises that were approved, and that does not get discussed either. So I just want to be clear: there's COLAs that need to happen for our staff and everything else, but raises need to happen for our there's COLAs that need to happen, and raises need to happen for our staff. That needs to happen. Otherwise, we will not be able to open our schools come September. I can assure you that. Thank you.
Hi. I wasn't going to speak, but my name is Melissa D. Joseph. I live in Richmond. I'm a parent. I have a 3rd grader at Richmond and a preschooler who will be in kindergarten at Richmond in September. I'm also a behavior management assistant for the Charahoe Alternative Learning Academy. So I wasn't going to talk because, as you can probably understand, it's a little conflicting for me being a parent and a taxpayer and an employee. But I'm just going to stick to the teacher cuts you're talking about, especially at Richmond. In 2017, we lived in West Warwick. We had our first daughter who was not in school yet, and we pretty much looked throughout the whole state to buy a house because we wanted essentially an ideal school department. I had family that already lived in Richmond, and I said, I'm not moving there, it's too far away. But after a lot of research, my background is in education. I went to school for psych and early childhood ed, so we did a lot of research on the school department, and I can tell you it's the #1 reason that we moved here. I don't have a problem with the budget. I voted for it both times. I have no problem saying that. But that aside, I think that we're in a mental health crisis, and these kids need the teachers. They need all of the staff. We actually could use a lot more. And I think it was Lindsay, I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, said she's heartbroken. And I think that I have to agree with her that if any of the staff or the teachers were cut, I would absolutely be totally heartbroken. That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Luzon and then Mr. Day.
I agree with what Mr. Day said a little while ago about getting to a vote on this, but I just want to make one statement. You know, it was said about 9 months ago that we really don't let anybody speak. If anything, we go above and beyond to let everybody speak. All right? So everybody is heard, and we've heard the voters. Personally, I don't want to cut anything. But to me, it's what I proposed was the lesser of two evils in my heart. So that's all I have to say about that, as Forrest Gump would say.
I just want to ask one question, kind of reinforce what Tom said earlier. How short-staffed are we in the support staff now? Janitors and other people, just a rough figure, half a dozen?
We have 4 vacancies in custodials. We have 4 full-time special ed teacher assistants that we need in high school, 2 in high school, 2 in middle school, 5 part-time teacher assistants. 4 of them are 3-hour K positions, and 1 is a special ed pre-K. And we have a leave of absence for a general TA at the high school.
Well, that's a dozen or more there.
More than a
So
dozen.
that just reinforces why this is the lesser of the two evils right now. We don't have the luxury of moving on for another month or 2 before we can do it. I'm sorry, I forgot your name now. Mike, I know you for a lot of years. I apologize. We don't have the time to go into that right now, but maybe we will have the time to do some adjusting later on, because we do have the luxury of moving money from one account to the next. So I just think that reinforces what Craig is trying to do here, to get us to a budget without impacting the support staff. And it keeps the 2 teachers in the elementary schools. It just limits our ability to have a words language teacher, as they said, one day a week or 1 hour a week. Is it good, or is it sufficient even? That's a difficult question to answer. So
I think all these choices are difficult, so, yeah. Any other comments with the motion that's on the table as is? So to remind everyone, the motion that was made was to accept or agree or approve all the cuts made, that the superintendent and her staff made, but to keep the CES and RES grade level teachers in place, and to actually remove 2 world language teachers instead. That's the vote that we are going to take right now. So those in favor of the motion? I have to. Yes.
Can you get them all?
So 1, 2, you need to get them all. Oh God, it's 5.
4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No,
You don't
I'll
vote?
support it
Okay.
reluctantly.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah,
Reluctantly.
reluctantly.
Okay.
And George, okay. Those opposed?
I've got some.
We have 3 oppositions.
5, 6, 7, 8 with 3 oppositions.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Beers, Callahan, and. Yes, so we did it. reluctantly. Yes, Dr. Callahan.
Chair, do,
Well,
So-
just one sec.
we need to get a final calculation in place and then I guess adopt a budget still? Ned,
Yes,
do you
that
need
is correct.
time? So
you
I
wanna
make
take
a
a break?
motion to take a 5-minute recess.
Sure.
Second.
In a motion, second, those in favor? Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess so that Mr. Draper can figure out the final number.
Say class.
Class. Right now.
Class.
So,
No one remembers
Thank you.
Sister Mary Elephant.
ready? We're ready. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for that 10-minute break. And now I believe we have a recommendation from Superintendent Picard.
I make a motion for the approval of the FY23 budget in the amount of $68,385,944. Total budget including operating, capital, special revenues, enterprise, and debt service expenditures, but does not include revenue of $11,612,622, with the member towns' contribution to be $54,704,347.29, an increase of 0%.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion to adopt the FY23 budget as read by Superintendent Picard in the amount of $68,385,944. Any discussion on this matter? Further conversation? Nope. Those in favor of adopting this budget at 0% increase? And that was unanimous. Thank you all. Thank you all for that work. That was very.
We're going to table H.
Yeah, I remember. Yes, sir.
Chair, make a motion to table letter H
you.
indefinitely.
May I have a second on that? Catherine? Okay, so Dr. Callahan made a motion to table the all-day budget referendum date, and Catherine Juicy seconded it. Any discussion? Indefinitely. Thank you. The key word is indefinitely. Was on reminded me. Thank you.
Okay, Ned would like
Okay.
to make a caveat.
Okay, Ned.
I just wanted to say one thing with those lines, because of the way those teaching positions and the other teaching positions will line up, whatever does not line up exactly dollar for dollar will go into the COLA. I think there'll be a slight advantage, and that'll just go into the COLA number to make it better.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, we were at the approving of to table the H all-day budget referendum. We did get a motion in a second indefinitely. Any discussion on that? Any questions on that? Nope. Those in favor? We don't need it. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. And now we're into consent agenda items. Sir,
A1 and 2.
we're gonna pull A1 and A2, session of minutes. Anything else need to be pulled for discussion? Mr. Day?
10B, I just have a question.
What?
Where's that? Wait a minute.
What's 10B?
Roman B,
Oh,
Trans-
transfers?
transfer,
Oh.
yes.
Okay, so,
Gotcha. Oh, I gotcha.
oh, B.
B,
B like in boy. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, transfers. So we have those items pulled?
So, Madam Chair?
Yes.
At this time, I make a motion to move the remainder, but before I do,
Mhm.
I would like to recognize the donations. One, from Mr. Ryan Saunders, Chorus of Wesley of the George Kent Performance Hall in Wesley for the Charahoe High School Chorus Benefit Concert. And two, donation from Sarah Marcotte of Little Kids Incorporated, Office Administrator, of 3,416 hand sanitizers to the district. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items. Those in favor? Thank you. Any opposition to that? Nope, that was unanimous. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to approve A1, the executive session minutes of April 12th, 2022, approval of executive session minutes of March 22nd, 2022, minutes not sealed.
Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. Luzon and a second by Mr. Callahan to approve the executive session minutes of April 12th, 2022. And it's the approval executive session minutes of March 22nd, 2022, minutes not sealed. Any discussion on those minutes? Any minutes? Nope. Those in favor? Any opposition? You can. Any recusals or abstentions? So that was unanimous.
No.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she can vote if she.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, make a
Mhm.
motion to approve A2, regular session minutes of April 12th, 2022.
Second.
There's been a motion by Ms. Luzon and a second by Mr. Callahan to approve the regular session minutes of April 12th, 2022. Again, any discussion, amendments, or comments on those minutes? No, I'll take that to a vote. Those in favor?
And that looks like that's unanimous.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
make a motion to approve B, the transfers.
Second.
There's been a motion by Ms. Luzon, a second by Dr. Callahan to approve the transfers. Now I give the floor to Mr. Day.
The question I have is the transfer of funds to pay the lower bowl parking. As Ned, you know, I was opposed to that. I thought that it wasn't an emergency, and now we've overexpended what we had, was it $30,000 you were projected to do that originally?
No, I don't believe we've overexpended on that.
Well, we transferred funds.
Oh, you're talking the 3,000.
The 3,000.
The 3,000 was what we anticipated receiving from the student activities funds. And when we got the final amount from the high school, they did not have the full student activities funds they thought they had.
Okay, my second question, do we plan on marking those parking spots so that we know that students that are parking there have school passes? Because I can see the possibility, and I've seen the possibility where cars have been parked in the entranceway already, and they're not parked in the field itself.
I do believe the idea is that when we line them for the fall, I think that we're waiting because there's also some, there's a pipe
I
that.
wasn't looking for tomorrow. I
No.
just want to be assured that we're not treating that as a offset
No.
lot, and kids that are parking there aren't.
And they did have, they have passes that we can check, and Ms. Foz has been down there herself verifying as well to make sure, because we know it was new and wanted to ensure that they
We
were
hold the
safely
kids-
parking.
We hold the kids to the upper parking area to a high standard, and I don't want that to slip out of there.
Understood.
Absolutely.
Good point. Thank you, Mr. Day. Okay, so on to reports.
We didn't vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't vote for the consent agenda.
Transfers.
Of the transfers. Okay, those in favor of the recommended approval of the transfers? Sorry, thank you. Okay, that was unanimous. Get involved in those things. Okay, now reports. Thanks.
Okay, so subcommittee reports. Our Health and Wellness Subcommittee meeting was today, May 10th at 4 p.m. in the high school library. And closed was the draft copy of the meeting on March 8th, 2022. In my superintendent's report, we had our junior prom recently, and it was outstanding. The students had a lot of fun, and more importantly, we were overwhelmed by the staff telling us how respectful, polite, and wonderful our students were. So it's always nice to have positive feedback. And Ms. Boz, I believe, sent an email to all families and students because it was just such a wonderful day, and it was nice to see them all back at those kinds of activities and with such great praise from Lake of Isles staff. We have our kindergarten registration update, which I put back by accident. So hold on one second. There we go. So for Ashway Elementary, we have 9 students currently enrolled for kindergarten next year. In Charlestown, we have 19. In Hope Valley, we have 20. And in Richmond, we have 33 to date. And we anticipate that continuing throughout the summer. We have our first ever AP commitment celebration. We were informed by the Department of Education that we are being celebrated at the State House next Wednesday, May 18th. We are one of 5 districts being recognized for our outstanding commitment to advanced placement courses. That's very exciting, and we have students who will be attending that celebration with us. We have coming events. We just had the Hello Dolly production as well, which was outstanding. If you had a chance to see it, we were so impressed with our students as always, and Rebecca Burns for a wonderful production. And my understanding is the costumes were custom made, and it was so we appreciate all the donations that came in to be able to support that program, and all the wonderful actors and actresses that did an outstanding job. It was definitely a wonderful weekend. Upcoming events. Tomorrow we have our State Professional Development Day. It is an asynchronous distance learning day for our students. On May 17th, Ashaway has the Take It Out dinner all day at Main Street Pizza. On May 18th, it's an early release day. Secondary will be dismissed at 12:45, elementary pre-K. And Mr. Day had asked earlier about our upcoming Peach Blossom Buffet. That is May 20th So that buffet is to support our Skills USA dinner, and it's being held on Friday, May 20th. There are 3 seatings, 4:30, 5:30, or 6:30. Tickets for adults are $25, and tickets for children under 10 are $10. We hope you'll support this wonderful buffet. The menu is amazing, appetizers, entrees, desserts, and our students are very excited about that event as well. May 20th, we also have secondary progress reports issued for 4th quarter. May 23rd is our Hope Valley Grade 4 visit to Charahoe Middle School. And on May 25th, our underclassmen awards night is 6 to 9 p.m. in the middle school auditorium.
So this is the, any requests for future agenda items or legal opinions from the committee members? Yes, Mr. Day.
Too late. A few months ago, brought up the Student Activities Fund, and I was led to believe that there was going to be a study on that to see if we could bring that into a better treatment of the students, especially at the middle schools, where some teams had exorbitant amounts of money and other teams didn't. I'd like to have a little update on that, as to if they've had any meetings or what's the focus is. The second thing is, I think we should have a meeting with our bus contractor. I have the opportunity to be on the buses around Charleston, but primarily a couple of days a week. And the number of cars that are passing the buses with the lights on Route 1 and Route 2 and stuff like that is chilling. I mean, this is, to me, Charleston is doing a good job. I know that one of the bus drivers had to go to court here a couple of weeks ago because, there's no cameras there or anything like that. So it was her word against the individual, and he did. They pleaded it down to half the cost of the fine. But it's scary out there. It really is. That these people are just blowing by the stop buses, and I'm just concerned about it. So I think that maybe the administration would be beneficial to have the administration to have some contact with them to see if they could target at least some of those buses. I'm sure the bus drivers can give them a better breakdown of what buses might need some sort of backup so that they can punish some of these drivers that just ignore the lights.
It's a huge safety issue. Thank you, Mr. Day. Any other school committee members have any other future agenda items? Okay.
You
Yes,
ready
sir.
for it?
Yes.
You folks ready?
I'm ready.
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's been a motion made by Ms. Luzon, a second by Mr. Callahan to adjourn. Thank you. Those in favor? Do we want any discussion on that? No.
We want to discuss.
Yeah, do you have any discussion on that?
Policy.